Gareloch, the second of the three lochs in the Three Lochs Way, one of Scotland's great walking trails. The Three Lochs Way isn't that long, about 34 miles, but it does pass through some truly stunning scenery. Today we're walking from here, Garelochhead, to Tarbet, or Arrochar. Arrochar and Tarbet are quite close together. I think there's just about a mile between them. Although you do find if you've spent a day in the mountains, that mile can feel quite long. So it's about 12 miles today, and much of it on tracks sitting high above Loch Long, the third of the three lochs on the Three Lochs Way. Initially we've got a uphill section through woodland, and at times it's a little bit boggy. So let's just get that out of the way and then we'll get up onto the track. It's adventure time. God, that was tough going. I'm getting eaten alive by clegs. Absolutely eaten alive. There's one got me a good one there. That'll have taken quite a lot out of me. As I say, this is a kind of uphill boggy section through fields of bog myrtle. That's why it's called bog myrtle. It grows in bogs. But sometimes the path's not that distinct, and you find yourself wandering off into what you think's the path, but it's not the path. I managed to leave the path there, and the ground is all over the shop. You're up and down, and some steps up are about 3 foot, you know. You're thinking, what the heck? And there was a buzzard squawking at me. I know buzzards don't squawk, but screeching maybe. You know, and if it had maybe pointed me in the right direction instead of just screeching or squawking, it would have helped. But I think we're almost up at that track. And I seem to be on a path. Thank goodness. I never thought I'd be so grateful for tarmac. That was a bit of a nightmare coming up there. As well as following the course of Loch Long, today's walk also pretty much follows the course of the West Highland Railway line. A line that was finished in, I think it was 1894. I believe it took about 8 years to build. And during its construction, 37 men lost their lives, ranging in ages from 18 to 67. Pretty awesome bit of construction work. You know, through such a mountainous terrain. And if you're on a train on that line today and you're coming from Glasgow, it is round about this area, the area of today's walk and the area around Loch Long, that you find yourself looking out the train window and suddenly realising that your train is clinging to the side of a mountain. You're looking down on a loch, and on the other side of that loch there's huge mountainous ranges, and you suddenly realise that this is really something quite special. It is in fact said to be the most scenic railway line in the world. But of course, sometimes when you're on a train passing through such scenery, the views pass by just sometimes a little too quickly, and you don't really get to see them properly. Well, today we're walking through that landscape. We're actually going to be in that mountainous scenery. And as I think I said before, if you thought the scenery in part 1 and part 2 was pretty good, we're in for a real treat today. So enough of this talk. Let's just get down to walking in one of the most scenic areas of Scotland. I was having a look over part 1 of the Three Lochs Way just the other night and noticed something that I hadn't noticed at the time. If you check that video, part 1, just at the point where I leave the dark wood and I come across a post with the Three Lochs Way logo on it, if you just look at that image, there's a wee pile of stones on the ground. You know, when I say a wee pile of stones, it's a man-made little pile of stones. I hadn't noticed it. No matter where you are in Scotland, and especially in woodland, there's always wee piles of stones lurking somewhere. this track. And it's one of these tracks that goes up and down and up and down. And it's actually quite exhausting. But I suppose the landscape goes up and down and up and down. And this is just a track, so you know, it's just going to follow the landscape. As a little track, it's not important enough for tunnels to be created and such like. The railway line sits a very short distance just to my left. It's a little bit nearer the loch, and you know, it has managed to avoid these up and down bits. And I dare say when they built it, there would have been some up and down bits. Slopes, I think is the word. Rocky outcrops even. And they wouldn't have been able to avoid them all, and they would have to have blasted their way through them or somehow get rid of them. It must have been one awesome job. And I think for all the navvies or the men who worked on this railway in the late Victorian period, I think they had camps just at certain locations. I believe there was a camp at Helensburgh and perhaps one at Arrochar. Well, I'm just going to end the video here. Tarbet's not that far away, it's just sort of around the bend and down the hill, and that's Arrochar, just there at the end of Loch Long. I'm not sure if I'm going to be in time to get the 4 o'clock bus, which means that the next bus is at 5:30. That's if I can get on that one, because sometimes the buses are fully booked. You've got to book in advance. But if I've missed the 4 o'clock bus, then I'll probably have about an hour and a half to kill. And I strongly suspect I'll kill it in a tavern or a pub of some sort. Except that pubs just aren't the same these days. You know, I was in a pub in Glasgow the other day, a place I go to quite a lot, and it just wasn't the same. You couldn't sit at the counter, and the staff were wearing masks, and it just didn't feel the same place. I passed another place that I go into a few times in Glasgow, and I kind of peered through the door, and one of the members of staff was peering back out again from behind the counter, all kind of masked up. And I thought, I just can't be bothered going in. It's which is probably not the attitude, you know. We really have to be supporting these businesses right now. But for a guy on his own, you know, it's just not sitting at the counter, it's just, you know. And I think, I mean, with this coronavirus, we had various kind of phases of the kind of lockdown thing, and in some ways you could kind of see how it was progressing, and various parts of the lockdown were being eased. But right now, I feel as if there's just a lot of uncertainty as to how long this is actually going to go on for, because we're nowhere near back to normal, you know. And as I perhaps said in a comment in another video, this virus will take a whole year out of our lives. and it's only when we get a vaccine that we'll have any hope of getting back to normality. It's just not a happy place at the moment for everybody. But you know, at least we can get out and about, and you don't have to wear a mask in the countryside. So that was part 3 of the Three Lochs Way between Garelochhead and Tarbet stroke Arrochar. I thoroughly enjoyed it. The next part of the Three Lochs Way is actually from Tarbet to Inverglass. I keep getting mixed up with the spelling of that name, not sure where the U goes. But, you know, I suspect I probably won't do that little extra bit. It's about 6 miles or so, it's not very much. But usually when you do walking trails, whether they're long distance or otherwise, there's a certain amount of satisfaction in completing the whole walk, and as such I would recommend that you do that additional 6 miles. And you know, when you get to Inverglass, have I said that right? You've got the option of perhaps going up Ben Vorlich, which is a pretty serious mountain, and you know that at the end of the day the choice and the decision is yours. So I'm Eddie Burns, take care, I'll see you again. Final hurdle of the day, getting into one of these seats. Oh my god, right. I came across a sign pointing downhill towards this part of Arrochar and the village inn, and I thought that'll do for me. I've got a note of bus and train times. The problem is I didn't note whether they left from Arrochar or Tarbet. So I'll drink this and head along to the bus stop. Hopefully there'll be a timetable on that, then we'll take it from there. This is sort of local beer. Fine brewery by Loch Long, which is sort of somewhere around. I've lost my sense of direction at the moment. To be honest, it doesn't look that great. It didn't even smell. It smelled a wee bit kind of sulphurous to me. It's got a slight haze. I don't like the shape of that head that's on it. You know, I'm thinking, oh, what on earth is this? Do I really want to drink this? That doesn't taste off, thankfully, so I'll persevere. It was once the case, just a few decades ago, that in Scotland there weren't many walking trails or long distance walking paths. I've got a leaflet in the house, and it only shows 3 in Scotland, the West Highland Way, the Southern Upland Way and the Speyside Way. And in contrast to England at that time, England was chock-a-block with long distance walking trails. I've always thought that the English were much better than us up in Scotland as far as footpaths and walking trails were concerned. But if you contrast that with a more recent leaflet that I have, and there's about 26 walking trails in Scotland, which is a huge increase from 3. One of those is the Three Lochs Way, which is what I've done, almost. Not done the last bit. So it's encouraging to see that we have so many trails in Scotland. If you can manage to get yourself a leaflet that tells you about them all, or if you go online, and I'm sure there's information on all the walking trails in Scotland, and it's a great source of inspiration for where to go and what to see. One of the websites that I look at quite a lot is Loch Highlands. Loch Highlands, it sounds like just a website to do walking in the Scottish Highlands, but it's actually all over Scotland. Very good website. I recommend it. And one of the important things about these walking trails is not to do too many miles in any one day. Because it's not all about walking, it is about leaving enough time at the end of each day for you to explore and enjoy the place that you're arriving at. Cheers.